Well, it's the next day of the Zion National Park trip, and we were attempting to reach a photographic location that we hiked to yesterday and ran out of light in, so we moved the car farther down the road to another parking spot, and wouldn't you know, it is actually one of my favorite spots in this wash. So we popped in here, and lo and behold, found this incredibly beautiful maple tree in peak fall color with framed very symmetrically with the canyon walls on either side. And so we're photographing this. I actually exposed my first sheet of Velvia 50 in 8x10 thanks to a very generous YouTube subscriber, and who sent me a box from Japan, so thank you very much for that, and you know who you are. And so this was a very long exposure. It was 1 minute, and amazingly the leaves did not move at all in 1 minute. So got the shot, and it's in the bag. Very happy with that. First image of the day.
This is a good example of asking just too much of slide film. I was so concerned about not losing the foreground shadows that I inadvertently overexposed the highlights, creating an unusable image. I should have used Ektar. Fortunately, I did make a digital version, which with its much wider dynamic range and better exposure turned out a lot nicer.
Well, just exposed my second sheet of 8x10 Velvia 50, and this was a really nice scene here in this canyon of these beautiful maples and oak trees, and then also this huge pine set against a sandstone wall. And I was amazingly lucky to get 5 seconds of stillness because it's been really breezy, and I was just really kind of sitting there waiting for a lull in the breeze, and finally got one that lasted the whole 5-second exposure. So got this one in the bag, and I have another image I'd like to try facing this direction in a few minutes, so we'll see if that one pans out as well.
This image is one of those that reminds me why we do what we do. The detail and tonality present in this 8x10 sheet of Velvia and its scan are mesmerizing to behold.
Well, for this next one, I just didn't even have to move the tripod, just swung the camera around and faced it down this way. I wanted to make, it's sort of an N shape, but there's basically these three, where are they? Those 3 pines behind me, and they kind of are surrounded by maples and oaks, and then the sandstone wall. It's a similar composition to the previous image, but it has a totally different visual energy to it, and as long as it balances okay, it should come out nicely. So this was another sheet of Velvia 50, 8x10 on the Intrepid 8x10 Gen 2, and I think it was about 2 seconds, so not as bad as the other one. And yeah, managed to get the wind completely still for that time. So hopefully it turns out. I think we're gonna pack it up after this because we're starting to lose the light, and I'm parked like pretty close to a parking spot, but the problem is I parked the car like way down at a different one, so it's gonna be a little bit of a hike to get back to the car, and then we gotta drive back down into camp. So I think we're gonna pack it out after this. Overall, it's been a really good day. I made 3 exposures on 8x10 Velvia 50, and so far I think 2 exposures on 6x7 Velvia 50. So I don't know, I might try and squeeze one more on 6x7 before packing up, but then it is gonna be a call a day, and it's been a productive one. So Thanks for following along. Until next time, stay curious.
This exposure was destroyed by a light leak. Fortunately, Intrepid is off the hook for this one, because if you look closely, you can see it must have been caused by a failing light seal on the film holder. All was not lost, however. I made an identical digital exposure which turned out perfectly, of course, as digital cameras are not exactly susceptible to light leaks. I was very glad I made digital backups of every composition on this trip, because testing out 3 cameras all on the same trip is not exactly a good idea for reliability.
So I just made another exposure on Velvia 50 on Will's 6x7 Pentax, and gotta say I love this camera. It is so easy to use. It really feels like using a gigantic SLR. He calls it the IMAX stills camera, which is pretty accurate actually. It's a giant piece of film, but yeah, you can drum scan that thing to 10,000 pixels wide and get some insane detail out of it. If you're looking for a camera that has a ton of detail, that's borderlining on the detail of like a 4x5, but that's like way more traditional as far as it just feels like a regular SLR, like a Canon or Nikon or something, but that shoots film. The Pentax 6x7 and the 672, the 6x7 MLU, all these different ones are really fantastic cameras, and they're not quite as heavy as the Mamiya RB67 and the Mamiya RZ67. So yeah, it's been a blast. I might have to pick one of these up. They're pretty fantastic.
The Pentax 6.7 version of this scene turned out great. The images that follow are a mixture of medium format film and digital exposures from this day, as well as the previous day of this trip. Enjoy, and thanks so much for watching. I'm Justin Lowry, and until next time, stay curious.